We want to talk a little bit about Hollywood on strike. This is something that has been irking me for a while. Obviously, we've been in the writer strike that began May 2nd.
Oh, wow. You start off bad. Said you start off the topic bad. You say I've been irked.
I've been irked about this, and you know as well as anyone how I've been feeling about this writer strike that has now become a double strike with SAG-AFTRA joining it a couple of weeks ago now, by the time y'all are hearing this. And so I've been frustrated about this from various different perspectives. I should say, for those of you that are not familiar with what SAG-AFTRA is, or you might see the SAG Awards, SAG-AFTRA is a Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists.
Oh, they know what it is.
I feel like what's important there is like there's a bit of a distinction in the SAG-AFTRA strike on the SAG side versus the AFTRA side. AFTRA was its own union for a long time before joining forces with SAG to become SAG-AFTRA. But the AFTRA side is often people who are hosts, radio and television personalities, journalists, etc. And so there's an interesting element of this strike where like the folks that are on that side of the coin are not necessarily impacted the same way as the folks on the Screen Actors Guild side that have streaming contracts with acting and writing and performance and all of those different kinds of things. And so this strike has been interesting to me because over the course of a number of years, we've seen so many different conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion happening in Hollywood. We've seen, Oscars So White. We've seen the major air quote reckoning that Tre'vell and I always kind of roll our eyes at, and many other people as well. And we've seen, such an influx in more and more representation that has been important and valuable and, impactful in the ways that we really appreciate and are grateful for. But I've also seen that in all of these different unions and guilds that are going to these streamers to negotiate their deals, none of them have like significant language about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which says to me that like it wasn't as high a priority as they said it was, and that it's not going to be as high a priority as we move forward. Past this strike, whatever that should be. But it also implies to me like we're going to have to be a lot more vigilant in a lot of different ways. Something I think that's important to understanding that, Tre'vell, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum on camera and off camera. And like we've talked, I started writing something that I felt like was too long and didn't have like a right place for it. And I sent it to you and you were like, girl, you got to cut this down. This is way too much. But like, how are you thinking about the strike? How are you thinking about what's happening kind of industry wide and what are your expectations?
I mean, pay the people their money. It's really that simple. Let's go to the board. If you know, you know. I mean, so I'm not a member of either of these unions. I also don't really have, intentional aspirations to join either of those unions and do the work, right? The type of work that's necessary to join those types of unions. And so for me, I've been given very, my name is Bennett and I ain't in it energy. Like, y'all say we striking. You don't want me to retweet the post? I won't retweet the post. Whatever y'all say goes in my eyes, right? That being said, I also think that, it is this interesting conversation. You brought up the DEI part of this conversation. You're not the only person who I've heard, use that aspect that DEI doesn't seem to be, at least from what I can tell, a major negotiation point. But also the broader happenings in the industry where, right, we've seen, I think it's 4 Black women DEI positions at the different studios. They've either left or got laid off or whatever over the last couple months or so. We know that a number of DE&I initiatives, right, are often the first ones to get shrunk or disappear at across industries, to be clear. Whenever, a business or a company begins to have whatever they say are, financial troubles, right? But for me, it's always interesting because I'm I hear that concern, and I'm also saying and seeing, right, that some of the loudest voices that I'm seeing on my timeline, right, in my news consumption are folks of color, right? They're black folks, to be specific, black women in films, to be even more specific. And so, like, I just watched a video on TikTok of the black girl who has the distinct features that we used to watch. She was a child star, and she was a little black girl. She was on the third Bring It On, I think it was the one with Solange. The Bring It On with Solange.
I knew you were gonna give me an example that was not going to be helpful at all for me, and you've delivered on that.
Listen, the girls who know, they know. But anyway, she played one of the supporting characters, one of the, Chandrika type characters in alongside Solange in that movie. But she was a child star, and I just saw this TikTok of her literally boo-hoo-hooing down, right, about the need for the strike, about the problem with the residuals, and being somebody who is famous because people see her on TV, but like having to have two jobs so that she can, pay her bills and take care of her responsibilities. And so to hear the concern that you laid out, and then to also see these black women in films be some of the loudest voices and, both on the picket line and on social media, I'm like, well, come on now. And so, again, for me, it's just like, how can I, support and amplify from my stance and my vantage point, as a journalist, as somebody who's like, engaged in this industry in the ways that I'm engaged in this industry. But really, I think it was Variety did a story, and they anonymously interviewed somebody. It might have been Hollywood Report, but they anonymously interviewed somebody, and the executive was basically saying, like, we gonna draw this out until the writers, lose their houses and stuff like that and can't pay their bills. And like, these executives, mind you, are, making hundreds of millions of dollars per year,
and have been for years,
right? And to say that type of thing, one, you said it anonymously because you would never come out of your mouth and say that directly to people, right? But also, like, that just goes to show kind of the pervasiveness of their greed and their lack of care. And so, if that means that the writers and the actors are on the outs for however long that y'all need to be out on the outs to get what y'all need to provide me my black excellence and my white excellence on television and on film.
First of all, the idea of providing me my white excellence, I'm just going to sit with that in my spirit for a little bit.
Have you seen Hacks?
I'm not doing this with you. And yes.
I'm just saying.
You said white excellence, baby. White excellence. The writing is just
entertaining.
Yes. You said the white people have a moment right now with that.